One more thing, and that is this revelation about Anonymous. Remember Anonymous? New York Times gives this big op-ed, senior administration official, where it says, I'm part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. Well, this is the guy. Take a listen.
Are you aware of who that is?
I'm not. Look, and that was a parlor game that happened in Washington, D.C. of a lot of folks trying to think of who that might be. I've got my own thoughts about who that might be, but you know, I want my focus to be on the president, and I certainly don't want to. I wear a mask for two things, Anderson: Halloweens and pandemics. So no.
They're singing that Shaggy song, It Wasn't Me. A string of official denials has failed to end a guessing game, looking for the name of an anonymous Trump administration official who blistered the president in the pages of the New York Times.
Who is it? That's the question of the night. Who did it?
Senior Trump administration official.
A current senior administration official admitting to being part of the resistance inside the Trump administration.
New York Times by an anonymous senior official.
By an anonymous Trump administration official.
A senior Trump administration official admits to being part of a battle inside the White House.
Holy shit.
Current senior official working in this White House.
The Times used only the word senior official to describe this person, so a member of the cabinet.
New York Times published a scathing anonymous op-ed written by one of the president's senior officials.
As a senior administration official.
The questions also for the New York Times coming out of that, especially what this definition of senior administration official is. It can be quite an elastic definition.
This is not some Democratic operative writing this. This is somebody working in the Trump administration.
It didn't have to be somebody in my position or similar. They don't have to be in the West Wing. I'm in the West Wing, but they don't have to be in the West Wing. It could be thousands of people. You don't know who it is. I go, interesting.
Yeah. Trump is already calling the whole thing fake news. That was predictable.
That person has already been turned over to the government by Donald Trump. Donald Trump chose the person who wrote today's op-ed piece that has become the president's obsession. It's one of Donald Trump's best people.
So yes, Miles Taylor actually was. He's the chief of staff for DHS, clearly not the high-ranking senior administration official, Molly, that the New York Times kind of implied that it was to give that much space.
There is every reason to believe that the author of the piece is an experienced politician.
The president blamed deep state operatives, even though the person is a Trump appointee.
The New York Times over and over used this anonymous source. They ran an information operation, essentially, saying that there was a very, very high-level person in the Trump administration, possibly Mike Pence, possibly a cabinet official, possibly a high-ranking ambassador, who had horrible things to say about the Trump administration. And it turned out it was a low-level person nobody has heard of. If they're willing to lie about their anonymous sources when it's a really high-level information operation they're running, imagine how much they're lying about all the other anonymous sources they use day in and day out as part of their anti-Trump campaign.
To show you how corrupt the Washington media is, I was just, and did you see this? This was just revealed. It was just revealed that, Anonymous, this Anonymous that everybody's been looking for, turned out to be a low-level staffer, a sleazebag, who's never worked in the White House. Anonymous was a nobody, a disgruntled employee who was quickly removed from his job a long time ago for, they tell me, incompetence. I don't know what for, but they tell me incompetence.
Are you serious? A newspaper gets someone that they have confirmed is a senior administration official, maybe the vice president, maybe the spokesperson, we don't know who it is, a cabinet member, comes to any press organization and says, I am working against the president. Would you like to print that? Of course you would. You should immediately shut down your news organization if you don't print that.
This guy's a low-level lowlife that I don't know. I have no idea who he is other than I got to see him a little while ago on television, and I think they threw him out a long time ago. The whole thing was just one more giant hoax from the Washington swamp and a corrupt special interest group. I'll tell you what, this guy, in my opinion, he should be prosecuted. He should be prosecuted.
This morning, Donald Trump Jr. is speaking out about that anonymous New York Times op-ed as the search continues to find an alleged mole on the inside.
I imagine this is a very low-level person. Perhaps it's a disgruntled person who's been thrown out because they didn't deliver on what they were supposed to do.
Okay. Inside the administration, secretly working against the president. An op-ed that legally can only be described with one word.
Bombshell.
Explosive anonymous op-ed in the New York Times.
We got this explosive op-ed in the New York Times.
Explosive new op-ed.
Explosive. Explosive. Explosive.
Explosive.
We're kicking their ass.
It's more likely than not now that this senior administration official isn't all that senior at all.
I will have a bigger problem with the Times decision here if it's a mid to low level person.
Anonymity is poison.
I would be shocked.
Yeah, but right.
I would be shocked.
I do think that
if it were because we all know that when you give somebody anonymity, and when you give somebody anonymity about this, you are putting your own credibility on the line.
It better be fairly high. If it's mid to low level, it becomes, then all of a sudden it looks like the Times was trying to stir the pot.
That's the end.
Shannon, Miles Taylor today managed to discredit himself, the New York Times, and CNN all in one fell swoop, and that is no easy feat. He showed that the New York Times will publish anonymous smears by a 20-something staffer, but they won't publish on-the-record evidence from Tony Bobulinski with contemporaneous documents and devices proving that the Biden family may be compromised by communist China. And let's look at this. I mean, Miles wrote the op-ed before he was even chief of staff of the agency. He became chief of staff for 6 weeks, and then he was pushed out. They made it seem like this was some kind of insider or cabinet member who had the president's ear. Tonight, after denying on CNN's airways that he was anonymous, admitted that he was anonymous, and then made outlandish claims about his interactions with the president. And let's be clear, the president had no idea who this kid was. The media propped him up because he said mean things about the president. Meanwhile, when he was leaving the administration, he could not have been more complimentary, saying we were historically productive, that we were keeping the American people safe. Then he went and got a job at Google in Silicon Valley, wanted to fit in with his friends, and said Trump's bad. Well, then he went to CNN. They said, are you anonymous? He said, no. Today, he says, actually, I am anonymous. And here's all these outlandish things that I'm going to say the president said. Again, the president has no idea who this kid was. So the New York Times is discredited, CNN's discredited, and Miles Taylor's discredited.